bit of Can't Help But Wonder Where I'm Bound, and doing that in kind of a cross-picking style. So today we're going to be talking all about cross-picking and some things you've heard before and maybe some things you haven't heard before. Maybe you have because you've been around here a little bit. My name's Andy. I teach lessons at andyslessons.com. There's some materials in the description here today that you can grab, and I've got some stuff for sale on the website. Okay, so here we go. So cross-picking, you may have heard, is like 3 notes in a row, like a banjo roll. And we've heard this said a forward roll, and said, well, what you're supposed to do, you could either alternate them, okay, or somebody said, well, you can go down, down, up, down, down, up, okay, and that would be a forward roll. And we attribute that to a great guitar player who played with the Stanley Brothers years ago named George Shuffler. And there's a lot of people who play in that style of down, down, up, down, down, up. It's a really good style. Billy Strings does that. Some other really, really good players. Then you get to the Jesse McReynolds style, who did this on mandolin, and he goes 2 upstrokes in a row in a backwards roll. Okay, all right. And again, you could alternate that. So the problem with a 3-note roll becomes evident pretty quick, and that it's hard to add up to 8 notes a measure, okay? Because 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. All right, so already we are not adding up to a solid measure. So people say, well, then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go 3 plus 3 plus 2. And that does work, okay? Or any combination. Maybe you're doing 2 plus 3 plus 3. Some kind of combination that comes out mathematically accurate. The banjo players like to roll over the bar line no matter what sometimes, and that can create an interesting sound when you have an accompanist. When you play by yourself in that way, though, I tend to lose track of where I'm at in the beat. There's lots of songs that use this style of playing, most notably something like Way Downtown. And here's an example where the top note changes every roll. Okay? Or Beaumont Rag is a really common cross-picking song, where the top note changes every time. Okay? In a melody situation, though, a lot of times the bottom note changes every time, and it has the effect of forcing a type of syncopation. So here's kind of a basic Wildwood Flower. Here it is in Carter style, how we're used to hearing it. Now here is that same melody in a 3-note roll, and you'll see that it kind of forces a syncopation into the melodies. Okay? So a 3-note roll is really cool for creating syncopation. It's really cool. It's historically accurate. It's what George Shuffler did, and a lot of other really great players. Now, here's something I think a lot of people have not talked about, and that is 4-note patterns. And I think there's a lot more modern players that use 4-note patterns. And I'm thinking of people like David Greer, like Sean Watkins, Billy Strings. Billy Strings kind of uses both kind of patterns. And I haven't really heard much talk about these patterns. So I started talking about them, and I use them a lot. And I want to show you the advantage of 4-note patterns. One advantage is evident really quickly, that 4 plus 4 is 8. So right away, 2 patterns adds up to 1 measure. You don't need to add any extra notes, nothing like that. So I've talked about these patterns before. I've talked about them in relationship to rhythm guitar. But here's my patterns. I wrote on here the old Scruggs thing that he said, practice each 1,000 times. So 4 across. And I call this one pick a strum. It's not exactly a cross-picking roll. It's kind of half cross-picking and half strumming. Same thing, this one's kind of a hammer strum, huh? Not really cross-picking, but a good pattern. What I find I get out of these 4-note patterns is a sound a lot closer to Norman Blake. So I really like these patterns. Here's my in and out roll. Here's my hammer picka. Here's a forward and back roll. And then you can use these in all different kinds of combinations that add up to 4. So for example, here is pick a strumma, hammer strumma. Here is 4 across, hammer picka. Here is hammer picka in and out. And here's 4 across, then in and out. Okay, so I've talked about those rolls before. You can get an example of this sheet here in the description. You can learn them yourself. It's a skill, so if you use the right pick strokes and just do them like it says 1,000 times, you'll be able to do them. Practice them on every chord. You don't always have to start on the bottom note of the chord either. You could start from any note a lot of times. Okay, so here's an example. I'm going to take Wildwood Flower again, and I'm going to play it with 4-note patterns instead of 3-note patterns. And then I'll go back and forth between the two and you can hear the difference. So here's Wildwood Flower in 4-note patterns. Okay, I'll do that again now. So still has a rolling cross-picking sound. It's just more square to the beat. Now that could be good. It's not good or bad. That's just a different sound. Here's the 3-note again for comparisons. Okay, 4-note patterns. Okay. So now somebody might say, you know, I've never heard of this before. Nobody's ever talked about this, or I haven't really heard many people talk about this before. I've only heard people talk about the 3-note patterns. Are you sure this is real? Is this something that actual bluegrass musicians do, or is this something you're just making up? And I want to show you this is something that actual bluegrass musicians do. So I was listening the other day to a Billy Strings song called Watch It Fall. Billy Strings is one of the most well-listened bluegrass musicians, meaning that guy's listened to more music than anybody else I've heard. That guy really has a deep listening background for the style of bluegrass music. I know this because of all the different covers he knows, all the different, just a wealth of knowledge of our style, okay? So here if he's doing it, I'd say it's real, and I'd say it's authentic to the style. Now, maybe not when he turns the the distortion on the Martin. Maybe that's not authentic to the style, but this is. Okay, so here's me trying to play Billy Strings, Watch It Fall. I'm sure there's people who can do this better than me, but I'm going to read it. Here we go. I'll take it down the tempo a little bit. So just look at that much. See in the second measure here, what have we got? We've got an in and out roll, right? An in and out roll. Now, I looked at this. This said this song was posted to YouTube 5 years ago. Well, that's basically before I started teaching this. And Billy Strings never even took a lesson from me. So I know he didn't learn it from me, right? Kind of wink, wink. Of course he didn't, right? But there it is. There's a professional musician whose role, this role is showing up in his playing, right? So this is a real thing. And then let's look down here. Now, I called it a hammer picker. It doesn't matter what the names are. I just made up names for these to help students. The reason I call it a hammer picker is I want the timing to be right. Hammer picker, hammer picker, hammer picker. Okay, and then what's he do? 4 across. See, these things are real. Now he goes into a 3-note forward roll. So he's using all the tools available to him, not just the old-time way, not just the George Shuffler, but the modern way too. There is a hammer strummer, right? Moving on. And then another 3-note forward roll. Okay? So if that doesn't convince you that these are really worthwhile things, now, how do you use these? My answer is generally, you could use them in a rhythmic context, and you could use them in a Carter style context. In rhythm, you're just starting on one of those notes. In Carter style, you're starting on a melody note. So if the melody note is, I'm going to take one of those notes and put a roll on it. So maybe that E note right there, I'll play that with a hammer picker. Maybe I'll play it with a hammer strummer. Maybe I'll play it with a 4 across. Maybe I'll play with a forward and back. And what I do now there's probably more patterns, right? Norman Blake's got his own patterns that he teaches on his homespun video. I've got these that some of these might cross over or whatever. And what you do is whatever pattern you're learning, you practice it until that's as easy as, open up a doorknob. So it's easy as starting your car. So it's as easy as walking down to the mailbox. It's something you do 1,000 times. It becomes what they call second nature. It's easy as breathing, as easy as listening. It's going to be no problem at all. Not because it's not difficult, but because whatever that thing is, you train yourself to do it slowly with the correct pick strokes. And you do it long enough where the body just says, oh, this is what we're doing. And then it becomes part of your playing, right? Now remember, when you're teaching yourself a skill, the body doesn't care whether you learn it right or wrong. So if you learn it with the wrong pick strokes, your body says, great, that's how we're doing it, and then you'll have it wrong. Well, there's nothing wrong with being wrong, except that it might put a glass ceiling on what you can do with it. The wrong pick strokes might work slow, it might not translate to fast playing. And you're going to need some fast playing in bluegrass, right? So take your time, do the right pick strokes. I really recommend becoming an alternate picker, which means down on the downbeats, up on the upbeats. And that's really the best way to play for the 99% of people. The people that are going to be great without that, they'll figure it out anyway. Okay? So there's a lesson on cross-picking guitar. I'm going to take this out right now with one more round of, what was the song I played earlier? What was it, Teddy? What was the song I played earlier? Oh yeah, it's a long and dusty road. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Say hey to Mr. Teddy Ruxpin and let's take this out.